Right now, 1 in 6 older Australians is being abused by their family members, and experts say that number is growing.
It's a large number, and I wonder if it's underreported because some people are embarrassed or ashamed, especially if it's a child. What's my son doing this? What have I done to deserve this from my son or daughter?
I'm living very bad. I'm living on violence. Nobody care about me. I used to care for everyone.
82-year-old Fred was abused by his own daughter and son-in-law for 10 long years. So scarred, he's too frightened to be identified.
I feel burning inside me, every day, every second. This is my life. What life?
The abuse became so bad, Fred was too scared to leave his room. In 2017, the Victorian government began funding a program of elder abuse specialists and counsellors after a Royal Commission into Family Violence recommended the targeted approach.
It can be minor, taking a bit of money out of mum's account, right through to stopping siblings coming to visit and saying, look, they don't visit you, they don't care about you, to make sure they try and get into your will.
Come next month, that specialist funding will be cut at a time when demand for support services is seeing a spike. One local helpline reporting a close to 40% increase in calls over the past year.
It's appalling, it's pernicious, and it's increasing. And the states have a responsibility to make sure that the elder helplines have sufficient staff that when people seek help, that they get help.
Elder abuse is an issue in every state, with New South Wales and Queensland both funneling more money into specialist support services in the past year, while Victoria strips funding from theirs. But the government says elderly victims will still be able to access general domestic abuse services.
We know with the increased transfer of wealth in the next 20 years, when the baby boom's passing money down, it's ripe for abuse, and it's vital there's help available.
Fred is clear about where he'd be without the elder abuse counsellor he eventually confided in.
These people here, that's why I'm alive. For these people.
And Graham Westaway is acting CEO of Better Places Australia, which is set to lose its funding for elder abuse services next month. Graham, we've just heard Fred's awful story. What other horror stories have you heard?
I can tell you many stories. I could tell you perhaps a little bit about the types of abuse that does get perpetrated. Mostly it's psychological and emotional abuse. Second type is generally financial abuse. And thirdly, we may get instances of physical abuse or equally horrifying would be sexual abuse.
Yeah, I just don't even know how you'd wrap your head around that. What's the emotional impact of this kind of abuse to older people in such a late part of life?
Look, it's devastation, because what's happened over time, most likely, is that the perpetrators managed to reduce the social networks, in fact, possibly block them all out completely. And in doing that, the older person becomes more and more isolated. Who do they turn to? Who do they talk to? These things are restricted. So they're in this world where they're faced with this perpetration by the one they love, yet the loved one is doing this.
Graham, that's obviously so awful. I think the most important question is, how do you support these victims?
First, you make sure we've assessed the risk to the older person, and if it's immediate and threatening risk, we'll actually go in and do a visit with the police and see if we can enact an IVO and put an order in place to prevent the perpetrator from having any contact with the older person. So that's using the court system. Sometimes an older person, in fact, may not want that. So what we may do is work with the older person and perhaps bring another family member in, such as another sibling, who can actually help moderate and work with us on how we can actually protect the older person safely.
So in some states we're seeing funding for these services go up. Victoria is the one where that's being taken away. The government there says it's being redirected into more generalised domestic abuse services, and so for that reason it's got this covered. Is that a fair argument?
Well, we would say that's an argument that has some holes in it, because what hasn't taken place, there's been no transition plan to take a specialised service that gets provided from a specialist setting into what are known as orange door settings. And I would hasten to add, of the current 15 elder abuse specialist worker positions in field across Victoria at the moment, as of the 19th of August, only 5 will remain. That's a 70% reduction in specialist workers. And furthermore, of the 18 orange doors that are to support older people, only 5 or 30% have an elder abuse support worker behind them. So the argument that mainstream family violence services can take on the support we think is very problematic, and we just wish the government would consider the risk that they're placing upon older people without a specialist service that comes through a particular health setting.
Graham, what advice would you give to people who suspect that they might be at risk of elder abuse, or perhaps someone is doing it in their family?
Look, we would say we don't get many self-referrals as such. We get referrals from workers in the field. So as an individual, you're feeling completely disempowered. So an expectation that you're going to call a 1-800 number to seek family violence support, we think doesn't match to the behaviour of older people, and we think in fact is an example of ageism, with a presumption that one service suits all. And I think it's not only a problem with this taking away of funding, it's certainly something we struggle with ageist attitudes prevailing about government decisions in protecting older people.
Yeah, there needs to be a really big cultural shift in the way we treat our elderly in this country, that's for sure. Graham,
Yes.
thanks so much for your time.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Before we leave that story, if you find yourself in need of help for any reason, in addition to those services, of course, crisis support is available 24/7 through Lifeline. So that number is 13 11 14. You can also call 1-800-RESPECT. So that's 1-800-737-732.